located here on the campus of Fayetteville State University. Our signal is being carried by the WUNC Chapel Hill system. Today is Saturday, March the 10th, 2018, and your radio readers this morning are Stuart and Beth Walter. We are glad to be with you, and we'll be reading, of course, from today's edition of the Fayetteville Observer. Today is Saturday, March the 10th, 2018. Let's take a look at the weather for today. It's going to be a nice day today, partly cloudy, but a high in the mid-60s. Just a nice, pleasant day. Be 46 tonight, and then there's going to be some rain developing for tomorrow. The newspaper says it could be heavy at times, intervals of rain tomorrow, high of about 57. A little bit of rain again on Monday, and then also be chillier Monday, only highs in the mid-40s on Monday. But then on Tuesday it clears up, and the rest of the week is in the, there's no other rain predicted after Tuesday through Friday. Highs are going to be in the mid-50s, low 60s, and lows overnight in the low 30s. So all in all, pretty pleasant weather for us. Okay, let's look at today in history. Today is Saturday, March 10th, the 69th day of 2018. There are 296 days left in the year. Daylight saving times begins today, so move your clocks forward 1 hour tonight before you go to bed. So spring forward, move your clocks forward 1 hour tonight. Today's highlight: on March 10th, 1876, Alexander Graham Bell's assistant, Thomas Watson, heard Bell say over his experimental telephone, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you," from the next room of Bell's Boston laboratory. In 1496, Christopher Columbus concluded his second visit to the Western Hemisphere as he left Hispaniola for Spain. In 1785, Thomas Jefferson was appointed America's Minister to France, succeeding Benjamin Franklin. In 1848, the U.S. Senate ratified the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the Mexican-American War. In 1959, the Tennessee Williams play Sweet Bird of Youth, starring Paul Newman and Geraldine Page, opened at Broadway's Martin Beck Theater. In 1969, James Earl Ray pleaded guilty in Memphis, Tennessee, to assassinating civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. And today's birthdays. Talk show host Ralph Emery, 85. Bluegrass country singer and musician Norman Blake is 80. Actor Chuck Norris is 78. TV personality businesswoman Barbara Corcoran is 69. Actress Sheridan Stone is 60. Britain's Prince Edward is 54. Rock singer Edie Brickell is 52. Actor John Hamm is 47. Rapper-producer Timbaland is 46. Singer Robin Thicke is 41. Country singer Carrie Underwood is 35. Actress Olivia Wilde is 34. Rhythm and blues singer Amelie Sande is 31. And actress Emily Osment is 26. In the Need to Know items, there's 4 of them today. Number 1 is build a better Haymount. The Haymount neighborhood will be transformed into a pedestrian-friendly business center from 1 to 5 today as part of a Build a Better block project. Organizers say the project is meant to revitalize the area, test ideas for the future, increase pedestrian traffic, engage the community, and boost the economy. Hay Street, Morganton Road, and Fort Bragg Road will be transformed by narrowed traffic lanes, widened sidewalks, bike lanes, crosswalks, benches, and plazas. There will be music, art, food, a pet-friendly area, and other entertainment. Item number 2, Amazing Grace. The musical about the world's most beloved song will be performed at 7:30 p.m. Tuesday at Givens Performing Arts Center at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. Discounts are available for church and school groups with 10 or more people. For information about the group discount, call 910-521-6361. Single tickets can be purchased by phone or online at uncp.edu/GPAC. Item number 3, horse and carriage tours. Visit sites from Fayetteville's 250-year history during a horse and carriage tour today from 1 to 8 p.m. The tours leave hourly from the Cool Spring Downtown District Office. Tickets may be purchased online at the Cool Spring office or by phone. Item number 4, leprechaun hunt. Explore Cape Fear Botanical Garden looking for leprechauns on March 17th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Participants who complete a lucky passport earn a prize. This activity is self-led with a parent and can be done anytime during business hours. The event is free for garden members, regular admission for non-members.
The first article from the editorial section today is Livewire. And the question is, what is going to happen to the private cemetery that is in the Cedar Creek Business Center? Will the cemetery still be accessible to those who would like to visit after the new facility is completed? Or is the cemetery going to be relocated? Answer. The location of the new distribution center in the industrial park will not have any impact on the cemetery, according to Jeffrey P. Brown, the county's engineering and infrastructure director. It will still be accessible following construction, he said. The cemetery is several hundred feet off Clark West Road, according to a map of the area provided by Brown. That section of the road is several hundred feet past the end of the paved part of the road. County Commissioners approved a resolution January 16th supporting improvements on the road for the $46 million distribution center. DHL Supply Chain, a contract logistics company that is part of the Dutch Post DHL Group, plans to build the facility in partnership with Campbell's Soup Company. The center is expected to bring 140 jobs to the area. The 627,000 square foot distribution facility will be located at 2601 Clark West Road in the Cedar Creek Industrial Park. The county has agreed to sell about 98 acres in the park to the company for about $1.23 million, which is more than $500,000 less than fair market value. The commissioners approved the sale in October as part of an incentive package to attract the center to the county. The agreement also calls for the county to give the company grants of not more than 75% of new real property taxes for 7 years. The State Department of Transportation plans to install a traffic light at the intersection of NC 53 and Clark West Road, resurface the paved portions of the road, and pave an unpaved portion. The completed improvements also will connect Clark West Road to Evans Dairy Road. And today's letter to the Observer is from Alvin H. Hartness, MD of Fayetteville. I raise these questions in regards to Time Warner Spectrum, which does business in the Fayetteville area. How do you reconcile increasing rates, increased advertising on all channels, double channels, example channel 3 and 6, and then no supervisor at the Rayford Road office to handle and answer billing questions since September 2017, which may mean less overhead for your business but more frustration for customers? While there, I was referred to a supervisor out of town and left 2 voice messages to no avail over the past week. Earlier, when I called in on their business phone trying for 3 weeks, I wasted hours leaving voicemails and no one calls back. Then Time Warner Spectrum had this chat line that wastes more time because no one can provide the right answers. We customers, the public, are not receiving good service and are paying more for it. And then a couple of local articles. A Fayetteville woman is accused of starving her dog to death. Deandra Monique Kane, 29, of the 2100 block of Constitution Drive, was charged Friday with killing an animal by starvation, a felony offense, according to an arrest warrant in the Cumberland County Magistrate's Office. The date of the offense was February 9th. Kane, who has paw prints tattooed on her hip, allegedly put the dog into a kennel and provided no food or water with the intentional deprivation of necessary sustenance, arrest documents said. Bail was set at $10,000. And an article about an incident on Friday in the Lake in the Pines apartments off Rose Hill Road. A 3-year-old boy was hit by a stray bullet in a home in the Lake and Pines apartments, Fayetteville police said. 2 men in an apartment adjacent to the child's location negligently discharged a firearm in their apartment, a police release said. The bullet traveled through a dividing wall. Police did not say whether the child was a boy or girl. The child was taken to Cape Fear Valley Medical Center with injuries that were not believed to be life-threatening, the release said. Police did not say where the child was hit. The shooting happened about 5:50 p.m., a police spokesman said. The men were being questioned Friday night, but no charges had been filed.
Well, let's look at an article regarding the recent developments with North Korea. This comes out of Washington. The White House tried to swat away criticism Friday that the U.S. is giving nothing in exchange for agreeing to a historic face-to-face summit between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said North Korea had made promises to denuclearize, stop its nuclear and missile testing, and allow joint U.S.-South Korean military exercises. The questions remained over exactly what North Korea means by denuclearize and what U.S. might be risking with a highly publicized summit that will build up Kim's stature among world leaders. Let's not forget that the North Koreans did promise something, Sanders said, responding to a reporter's question about why Trump agreed to a meeting. Unprecedented between leaders of the two nations without preconditions. She added, "We are not going to have this meeting take place until we see concrete actions that match the words and the rhetoric of North Korea." Still, the White House indicated that planning for the meeting was fully on track. The previous night's announcement of the summit marked a dramatic turnaround after a year of escalating tensions and rude insults between the two leaders. A personal meeting would have been all but unthinkable when Trump was being dismissed as a senile dotard and the Korean rocket man was snapping off weapons tests in his quest for a nuclear arsenal that could threaten the U.S. mainland. North Korea's capabilities are indeed close to posing a direct atomic threat to the U.S., and the wider world has grown fearful of resumption of the Korean War that ended in 1953 without a peace treaty. The prospect of the first U.S.-North Korea summit has allayed those fears somewhat. The European Union, Russia, and China, whose leaders spoke by phone with Trump on Friday, have all welcomed the move. North Korea's government has yet to formally comment on its invitation to Trump. North Korea said the president agreed to meet Kim by May, but Sanders said Friday that no time and place had been set. The promises on denuclearization and desisting from weapons tests were relayed to Trump by South Korean officials who had met with Kim Monday and brought his summit invitation to the White House. Trump discussed the offer with top aides on Thursday. Some expressed their reservations, but ultimately supported the president's decision to accept it, according to U.S. officials who were briefed on the talks and requested anonymity to discuss them. Still, some lawmakers and foreign policy experts voiced skepticism about the wisdom of agreeing to a summit without preparations by lower-level officials, particularly given the lack of trust between the two sides. North Korea is also holding 3 American citizens for what Washington views as political reasons. Take a look at a few of the editorials from around the state this week. The Observer always does a summary of significant editorials from other newspapers on significant issues affecting the state. The first one comes from the Charlotte Observer, which said on a Democratic state lawmaker accused of mistreating women. Representative Dwayne Hall, a Democratic legislator from Raleigh, says all the right things about women. He regularly posts supportive messages on social media, including photos from the women's rally in Raleigh, which he attended in January. That same month, he tweeted a tribute to Lillian Exum Clement, the first woman to hold legislative office in North Carolina and in the South. But when it comes to his personal interactions, a different story emerges. In two damning articles last week, the progressive online site NC Policy Watch detailed multiple accusations of sexual misconduct, unwanted advances, and sexual innuendo against the three-term legislator. Those incidents included Hall forcibly pulling a woman onto his lap, kissing her, and taking a photo with his cell phone at an Equality North Carolina event in October 2016, and kissing a party official without her consent at a Democratic Party function earlier that year. Democrats, from Governor Roy Cooper to House Democratic leader Darren Jackson, a close friend of Hall's, have called on him to resign. Hall, a charismatic rising star in state politics, has resisted. On Sunday, he released a statement attacking Policy Watch and saying he would stay in his House race. "I won't resign from my seat because of anonymous false accusations," he wrote. The accusations aren't all anonymous, however. The allegations against Hall are substantial and credible. They are also numerous, and they're backed up by people willing to go on the record. He should resign immediately. And this from the Asheville Citizen-Times about the NRA. North Carolina's Republican Senators Richard Burr and Tom Tillis are among an elite group of senators who garnered more affection from the NRA than almost any other lawmakers, raking in more than $11 million between them in career campaign donations. So we can only assume that in the more than 2 weeks since yet another massacre by assault rifle has devastated our nation and taken 17 lives, the pair has been hard at work coming up with $11 million worth of ideas to keep the children they represent safe, rather than sending up another vapid round of thoughts and prayers while students here wait for the next slaughter to occur in their own state. Any other explanation is unacceptable, and North Carolinians have made that abundantly clear this week. Over the last 2 weeks, we have watched in awe as teenagers have marched where the adults have refused to tread. Will they persuade their elders to stand up to the NRA and demand that military-style assault weapons be banned? We hope Burr and Tillis' abundance of resources will aid them in heeding those calls. The students have spoken. We can't think of anyone more suitable than those profiting most from their nightmares to heed their call and lead. And from the Star News in Wilmington. As much as we've wailed and gnashed teeth about the industrial chemical Gen X in our drinking water, we said from the outset we did not want to see Chemours shut down. But because of the chemical giant's apparent inability to conduct fluorochemical compounds, state officials must take whatever measures are necessary to immediately shut down any Fayetteville Works operations that are resulting in illegal discharges into the Cape Fear River. Chemours, DuPont, and Curare America produce various chemical products at the industrial site located along the Cape Fear. The three companies provide hundreds of well-paid jobs in the area, provide needed tax revenue, and ultimately help produce items that we use every day. We are not against the chemical industry. We are, however, against any business or person or body, for that matter, that continually violates laws that put in place to protect our health and environment, specifically public waters. Chemours has demonstrated that it either cannot or will not do right by the people of southeastern North Carolina. Enough is enough. This editorial comes from the Washington Post by Mark Thiessen, who's a regular writer that the Observer carries on the editorial page. His editorial today reads, "When Karen Gaffney's mother found out she would be born with Down syndrome, the doctor said Karen probably would not be able to tie her own shoes. Instead, as Karen explained in a moving and eloquent talk, she has become an accomplished open water swimmer who has crossed the English Channel in a relay race and completed the swimming leg of the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon. Now she fears the result of a new race, the one to find newer, faster ways to screen for Down syndrome so that more children with the disability can be killed in the womb. Her fears are well-founded. CBS News recently reported that Iceland was on the verge of eliminating Down syndrome. Unfortunately, there was no great medical breakthrough to report. Iceland, it turns out, is not eliminating Down syndrome, it is eliminating people with Down syndrome." The The country's abortion rate for Down syndrome babies is close to 100%, the highest in the world. Denmark is close behind at 98%. In the United States, it is 67%, and Karen fears the rates here will soon reach European levels. Save our lives, she pleads. Sadly, there will always be those who see people with Down syndrome as nothing more than a burden on society. Princeton University professor Robert George recently tweeted out a shocking video in which a bureaucrat from Dutch National Institute for Public Health shows a man with Down syndrome on a blackboard how expensive he is for society compared to normal people. Do the Dutch, who suffered under and in many cases heroically resisted Hitler's domination, forget that this final solution began with the dehumanization and eugenic killing of the handicapped? Today, more and more people with Down syndrome are speaking out and demanding recognition of their humanity. Recently, Frank Stevens appeared before the House Appropriations Committee where he told members of Congress, "I am a man with Down syndrome and my life is worth living." Noting the abortion rates for Down syndrome babies in Europe, he declared, "I completely understand that the people pushing this particular final solution are saying that people like me should not exist. Let's be America, not Iceland or Denmark. Let's pursue inclusion, not termination." The message of inclusion is slowly getting through. Last month, baby food maker Gerber named Lucas Warren, a boy with Down syndrome, its 2018 Gerber spokesbaby, selecting him out of 140,000 entries for his glowing and giggly smile. Good for Gerber. His glowing smile should be no surprise. A 2011 study by Harvard University researchers found that rather than leading lives of suffering, people with Down syndrome have usually high rates of happiness. An amazing 99% said they are happy with their lives, 97% like who they are, and 96% like how they look. Overall, the overwhelming majority of people with Down syndrome surveyed indicate they live happy and fulfilling lives, the researchers found. Surveys from Boston Children's Hospital found that far from being a burden on their families, children with Down syndrome bring enormous joy to their loved ones. 94% of siblings expressed feelings of pride about their brother or sister with Down syndrome, and 88% said they were better people because of them. Only 4% would trade their sibling in for another, and only 4% of parents regretting having their Down syndrome child. It turns out the researchers concluded that the experience of Down syndrome is a positive one for most parents, siblings, and people with Down syndrome themselves. Lawmakers are taking notice. As the Washington Post reports this week, more states are passing laws prohibiting doctors from performing abortions because of a fetal Down syndrome diagnosis. Indiana, North Dakota, Louisiana, and Ohio have passed such laws, with Ohio's Down Syndrome Non-Discrimination Act scheduled to take effect later this month. Utah is currently debating a similar law. The bill's sponsor, Republican State Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby, says it is Utah's message to the world is that we will not tolerate discrimination. Naturally, pro-abortion absolutists are suing to block these laws. It is simply intolerable that so many joyous lives are being snuffed out. All lives are a gift of God, Gaffney says. Amen. To me, that means that all lives matter, even if you will be born with an extra chromosome.
The next article is by Drew Brooks, the military editor. The title is Fayetteville Vet, I'm Not Dead. The Department of Veterans Affairs says Charles Cavell was dead. He disagreed. Now, the Vietnam veteran and retired U.S. Postal Service worker is hoping to be resurrected soon. It was not very nice to kill me, Cavell, 81, said from his Fayetteville home this week, where he is very much alive. Cavell is one of hundreds of veterans each year who have had their VA benefits erroneously suspended. Many of the mistakes were caused by information reported by the Social Security Administration, according to a VA spokesman. The VA works with that agency to prevent overpayment by matching death records to a VA database. Between October 2016 and September 2017, the VA suspended benefits for 105,529 beneficiaries who are identified as having died according to the VA. Of those, 245 beneficiaries were later found to have been erroneously included among that suspension. That equates to a 99.77% accuracy rate, the VA spokesman said. While the errors are small, they are still unacceptable, and VA has taken steps to improve our process. These steps include an automatic notification letter to the beneficiary's last known address. This letter provides notification that VA will take action to terminate benefits if the beneficiary does not contact VA regarding an error, the spokesman said. Coville's death came as a surprise to him and his wife, who first noticed something was wrong late last month. The couple never received a letter, they said. Instead, Marcy Coville realized something was wrong when a monthly disability payment from the VA was not deposited in the couple's bank account. Charles Coville, who spent a combined 12 years in the Army and served with the 82nd Airborne Division and the 5th Special Forces Group of Fort Bragg, is 100% disabled based on the VA's metrics. Eventually, she called the VA and learned that someone had filed a death certificate for her husband in January. Coville chuckled at the idea of his passing. More than 50 years earlier, he had survived a Viet Cong ambush in Vietnam and was honored for heroics during the battle. But years later, it was a paperwork mistake that failed him. The thought of it all brought a smile to the veteran's face, because this isn't the first time Charles Coville was a victim of a paperwork error. According to a 2006 article in the Fayetteville Observer, Coville waited for more than 4 decades for the Valor Medal he earned in Vietnam after the original paperwork was lost. He received the Bronze Star Medal for Valor in a ceremony that year, recognizing heroics that took place in 1965. As a staff sergeant in Vietnam, Coville was a demolitions engineer on a special forces team working along the Cambodian border. During a mission in the Tay Ninh province, about 60 miles northwest of Saigon, in April 1965, the Special Forces team and their Vietnamese allies were ambushed by Viet Cong fighters. According to an Army account of the battle, Coville's unit became pinned down by intense fire from rifles, automatic weapons, and grenades. What would happen next would earn the soldier a Bronze Star Medal with Valor. Sergeant Coville voluntarily remained in an exposed position in an open rice field to advise, adjust the supporting fire, and assist as needed. A citation for the medal reads, after the unit sustained 10 casualties, including 3 leaders, he again continually voluntarily exposed himself to accurate sniper fire as he administered first aid to the wounded. Coville then directed a helicopter into position to evacuate the dead and wounded and help load the casualties into the aircraft. Then the soldier again risked his life, this time to save his Vietnam allies. With an American airstrike incoming, Coville ran through enemy fire to reach a Vietnamese platoon that had not received notice of the pending strike. They were going to take off, go out, and confront the enemy across this field, and we couldn't stop them, he said. We had the airstrike right where they were going. Coville was able to stop the platoon from advancing onto the strike target. It was scary after it was over, he told the Observer in 2006. You don't think too much about that stuff when you're really trying to get something accomplished. Now in 2018, Coville says his fight for survival is a lot less harrowing. I'm under the assumption it will be taken care of very soon, he said. But the ordeal hasn't been without inconvenience. Originally, VA officials told Cavell he would have to take his birth certificate, Social Security card, and a DD 2014 in person to a VA office in Winston-Salem. Then they told him and his wife they would need to send those documents to another VA facility in Wisconsin. Meanwhile, the Cavells picked apart their Fayetteville home looking for the documents. Boxes of paperwork covered a coffee table in their living room. And eventually Cavell had to send off to his native Michigan to get a copy of his birth certificate. Their luck changed when they visited the Cumberland County Veterans Service Office in downtown Fayetteville. There, Robert Shelley took up their case on their behalf. He called and called and called and finally got a hold of a woman and explained everything to them. "You say he's dead," Charles Cavell said, repeating the conversation between Shelley and VA officials. "He's standing next to me. He's definitely alive. How can I bring him back to life?" Shelley said Cavell's case was a first for him as a veteran service officer. He's worked for Cumberland County for 4 years, but has worked with veterans all his life. "I've never worked with a veteran before that this has happened to," Shelley said, "but I've heard that this has happened." The problem, Shelley said, came to a clerical error. The VA, he said, confused Fayetteville's Charles Cavell with the late Charles Cavell from New York. Charles Robert Cavell is alive and well in Fayetteville. But the Reverend Charles R. Cavell of Clinton, New York, died in September 2011, according to an obituary published in the Observer Dispatch, a newspaper based in Utica, New York. Aside from the name, the two men had other things in common. The late Charles R. Cavell was also a paratrooper, serving in the Korean War with the Army's 11th Airborne Division. A VA spokesperson said the administration works diligently to restore benefits as quickly as possible when such mistakes are made. The issue is not a new one for the VA. Between 2011 and 2015, the VA cut off benefits for more than 2 million beneficiaries who were reported dead by the Social Security Administration. Approximately 4,000 of those veterans had their benefits cut off due to erroneous death notices. Fayetteville's Charles Cavell said he's happy that he's coming back to life. He thanked Shelley for his efforts and said U.S. Representative Richard Hudson's office has promised to try to expedite the VA paperwork needed to fix the error. "It's not a thing they can sit on," Marcy Cavell said, referencing the missed disability payment. "It's a problem. If it goes much longer, it will be a bigger problem."
Wow. So we are at the bottom of our first half hour. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, the United Way Partner Agency, broadcasting here from Fayetteville State University using the signal of UNC Chapel Hill. We are a nonprofit agency relying on public donations. Please consider sending your donations to the Radio Reading Service at Box 35029 Fayetteville 28303. You can always call us with your suggestions at 910-672-1600. And please remember, too, that the Radio Reading Service has this annual golf tournament that's coming up on April the 7th. If you know of anyone that would be interested in sponsoring or playing in the event to support Radio Reading Service, you can call the office here. Whole sponsorships are available for $100 and corporate sponsorships for $300. So that important fundraising event's coming up Saturday, April the 7th. Okay, so back to the reading of the newspaper. This is another article in relation to all the Gen X activity that's going on. The Cumberland County Board of Commissioners asked the county's state lawmakers to help in obtaining money to run public water lines to the county's Gen X contaminated communities. The commissioners presented this and other requests during a breakfast meeting on Friday with the county's 6 state legislators. Here are some of their focus points. On Gen X, with the potentially cancer-causing Gen X chemical showing up in drinking water wells in southern Cumberland County near the Chemours Chemical Factory, the county commissioners would like money and other support for extending water lines to that area. This is our number one goal as a county, to do something about this and ultimately to extend water into that area, said Commissioners Chairman Larry Lancaster. State Senator Wesley Meredith asked if the county has approached neighboring Bladen County about extending water lines there, as Bladen has water sources close by. The county is looking at that, said County Manager Amy Cannon. On the restaurant food tax, the county has a 1% sales tax on restaurant foods that has been used since the 1990s to pay for the Crown Coliseum's construction costs and debt. The tax is scheduled to end when the debt is paid off in 2024. The county wants state law change to let it keep the tax in place and use it to pay for improvements and renovations at the Crown, and to provide money for other projects such as a new performing arts center and a Civil War museum planned to be built in Fayetteville. On hotel taxes, the county wants the law that set up the local hotel tax to be modified. Part of the hotel tax, like the restaurant tax, underwrites the Crown Coliseum. Part is channeled towards tourism promotion, and part is channeled to the Arts Council of Fayetteville of Cumberland County. Commissioner Jimmy Keefe said he would like the law changed so that the money can be directed towards projects other than the Crown once the Crown's debt is paid off, such as an arts center or the Civil War Museum. Representatives Elmer Floyd and Marvin Lucas warned that efforts to adjust the Cumberland County hotel tax law could lead to unexpected and unintended consequences due to the politics surrounding hotel tax laws in the General Assembly. The State House has guidelines on how hotel tax money should be spent. The law that spells how Cumberland County can spend its hotel tax deviates significantly from those guidelines. Lawmakers from other parts of North Carolina could force Cumberland County into those guidelines if the local delegation attempts to advance a new hotel tax bill. On sales taxes, county officials said they believe sales tax revenues from the sale of goods is declining due to online shopping, but this is difficult to track because the government doesn't specify whether the tax is coming from the sale of goods or the sale of services. The county would like the state to itemize which taxes come from goods and which ones come from services so it can track whether local sales taxes are declining due to online sales that often aren't taxed. Ultimately, the county wants to collect sales tax from online vendors who sell goods and services in Cumberland County. Litigation on those types of collections is pending before the U.S. Supreme Court. And on health, the county asked to have the state maintain funding for mental health care services. Also, the county supports an $8 million request to hire 100 nurses, one for each county in the state, to address growing threats from communicable diseases. These include Zika, hepatitis, influenza, and others. Paul Wolverton wrote that article. The leader of a Godwin drug operation has been found guilty. A done man identified as the leader of a drug ring that operated in Cumberland and Harnett counties for more than 4 years was convicted on federal drug charges Wednesday after a 3-day trial in Eastern District Court. Jurors found Antoine Miles, 42, guilty of conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute 5 kilograms or more than 11 pounds of cocaine, or more than 9 ounces of crack cocaine. He was convicted of money laundering and possession with intent to distribute cocaine, and crack cocaine. He is scheduled to be sentenced the second week in June, according to a news release from the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of North Carolina. Evidence presented at trial showed that Miles and his brother, Lamont Webb, were leaders of a drug trafficking ring that distributed crack cocaine in the Godwin area. Miles and Webb hired people to work shifts selling crack, operating out of a trailer in Godwin 24 hours daily and 7 days each week. The Cumberland County Sheriff's Office obtained an injunction to shut down the trailer operation, the release said, but Miles and Webb moved the operation into a recreational vehicle located across the street from the other location. Between 2010 and 2015, the operation pulled in more than $900,000 in profits. $900,000. In 2015, a federal grand jury indicted 19 people, including Miles and Webb, in conjunction with the drug operation. 17 of them have been convicted on drug and money laundering charges, the release said. And this article is about renewable energy. Local conservation activists envision a cleaner future, a future that by 2050 North Carolina will operate solely on renewable energy. Fourth annual Sustainable Sandhills Clean Energy Summit kicked off Friday at FTCC. Local businesses, organizations, and people participated in discussions on trends in renewable energy. The summit continues today at the college. Hannah Ehrenrich, Executive Director of Sustainable Sandhills, prides the group on organizing a summit to provide unbiased information for people. She hopes the sessions inspire people into action. Fayetteville is a large enough city where people can make a difference, yet isn't routinely part of state-level discussions on renewable energy laws, she said. We're a city, and yet we're not pulled into discussions on statewide levels about energy and innovation. We wanted to create a hub for the conversation. On the second day of the summit, youth will be able to participate in a world climate simulation, pretending to work for oil companies and fossil fuels for renewable energy trades. Among other sessions, there will be a discussion on community solar, green jobs, and the economic outlook for renewable energy, investing for sustainable climate change, and renewable and alternate transportation planning. The summit has steadily grown, a testament to people learning more about renewable energy. Ehrenrich said, the more people talk about innovations and the latest technology in renewable energy, the more they understand it. I want to be 100% clean energy by 2050, she said. It's possible. Sustainability in our region is alive and well, and we see a lot of innovation in businesses.
The next article is the merits and demerits from the opinion page. The first merit for the Cumberland County Health Department, which is reversing some questionable decisions it made in the past year and is returning to 5-day-a-week health care in its adult health clinic. The department announced this week that the health clinic will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 8 to 2 on Fridays. Health services will be provided by the Wade Family Medical Center Adult Health Clinic. Dr. Tanika Burks, a board-certified family medicine physician, will provide the medical services. The clinic, along with the health department's dental clinic, has been closed last year as a cost-saving measure, but the clinic shutdown left many low-income residents without any good options for basic health care. Both clinics will reopen on a part-time basis last fall. Dwayne Holder, an assistant county manager, has taken over as the county's interim health director, and he's beginning to restore neglected programs and improve the department's management and effectiveness. The changes are good to see. The department will hold an open house and meet and greet with Dr. Burks and the clinic staff on Tuesday from 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. For information about the clinic or to schedule an appointment, call 433-3770. Demerit for North Carolina's deadly flu epidemic, which continues to wreak havoc and pile up a terrible death toll. The state reported this week that 12 more people have died from the flu between February 25th and March 3rd, which brings official death toll for this flu season to 276. That's a record. Last year's flu season was considered an active one, and it killed 210 people by the end of May. The 276 deaths attributed to the flu may not reflect the real toll. It only includes those who tested positive for the virus. It's likely to cause more deaths. The infection is showing no signs of stopping just yet, so if you haven't gotten the flu yet, there's still time to stop in your corner drugstore and get a flu shot. Merit for the Cumberland County school system, which is considering a school watch program that would bring in volunteers to improve security and watch students and the school property. In the wake of the February 14th shootings at a high school in Parkland, Florida, Interim Superintendent Tim Kinlaw says the school system has gotten many calls from parents who are concerned about safety. Volunteers wouldn't be security guards, Kinlaw said, but rather additional eyes and ears for school officials, watching out for suspicious activities. Kinlaw expects many grandparents would volunteer. They're frustrated, they're worried, and they would like to help, he said. The volunteers would be trained in radio communications, crisis management, and safety. They would also have to pass a background check. The school board will consider the program when it meets next week. It's a good step forward, one of many we need to take so we can send our kids to school every day confident that they're safe. Demerit. For the latest and one of the nastiest telephone scams to be reported in Fayetteville. In this one, someone calls and claims to have kidnapped a family member. The call demands money by electronic transfer. The caller may have personal information about that alleged kidnapped family member, including a name and the names of other family members. Some victims say they heard noise in the background staged in an effort to make it sound like there's a kidnapping victim in distress. If anyone gets a call like that, the police say they should try to call or text 911 from another phone while trying to keep the kidnapper online. Call if you can, text if you can't, the police said in a release. A text should include the address that the scam victim is calling from. If you've already been scammed by these crooks, call the police department's fraud unit at 433-1885. Merit for Craig Hardy, former president of Rolling Thunder NC Chapter 1, and Ronnie McCann, co-founder of the Special Forces Charitable Trust. These two men were honored by Fort Bragg officials Thursday and added to the list of the Post's good neighbors. Fort Bragg's commander, Lieutenant General Paul J. LaCamera, said the two men joined a small but exceptional group of leaders who have made the Post a better place. When these servicemen and women who deploy in harm's way know that they and their families are well supported and cared for by the communities they live in, it makes a huge difference, and it allows us to focus on the mission at hand and not to have to look over our shoulders. Both men have worked in many organizations that help the Post soldiers, their families, and veterans. There are two more reasons why this is a special place.
Okay, let's look at Bill Kirby's column for today. Call this a room of athletic legends. There was Robert Brickey, the E.E. Smith High School basketball standout who went on to play for Coach Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, and Garvin Stone of the E.E. Smith football fame. Leonard Black of Duke football fame was there. Earl Moose Butler and Junior Edge of Massey Hill High football legend, both who later played at the University of North Carolina. There was Gil Bowman, the Terry Sanford High tennis coach extraordinaire, Pine Forest High School basketball coach Chuck Moon, Arnold Pope, the telephone pole thrower, softball icon James McClan, John Daskell of Reed Ross High School, and Lynn Manus, the revered Fayetteville High and Terry Sanford boys basketball coach. Everywhere you looked, there was either a player or a coach who left his or her footprints in this county and beyond. The sports club wants to make this a memorable night, Greg Parks was saying of the Fayetteville Sports Club's 15th Annual Hall of Fame banquet held Wednesday at Highland Country Club, with inductions of Chip Bishop, Jim Farthing, the late James Buck Melton, and the Monaco twins, Lisa and Margaret. Memorable, if you will, for seeing so many who played on the courts and fields long ago, and remembering those who coached them or were a part of the games. and emotional for those who presented the honorees for induction. You could see the pride in Charles Kuntz as he introduced Bishop, remembering his old friends' football days at Terry Sanford High, to succeeding Lynn Manus at the boys' basketball helm to coach Fayetteville Academy, to consecutive state basketball titles, to serving as the marshal at the Masters Golf Tournament 23 years, to now officiating the games that a new generation of kids play. I learned everything about coaching from Lynn Manus, Bishop, 65, would say, and Manus couldn't help but wipe away a tear. Ronnie Darden, a former Pine Forest High basketball player, inducted his old coach, Farthing, as the club's oldest member for enshrinement at age 87. Darden was heartfelt, recalling what Gentleman Jim meant to not only his life, but the lives of players like Steve Driggers, too. The Monaco twins offered touching testimony to their late parents, who made sacrifices toward their Terry Sanford High School tennis careers, where they compiled a 117-1 record and 4 state doubles titles. Wow. Our mother sacrificed everything for us, Margaret would say. Hilda Melton, sons by her side, would accept for her late husband, the basketball and football official who called thousands of competitions throughout this county and state, and would be remembered as one of the best. I believe my father could have been an official in the National Football League, Greg Melton would tell the audience, and no one would have disagreed. The inductions bring the Hall of Fame to 73, since the club was founded in 1980 under Charles Priest, its first president, Leonard Black, Fritz Healy, Bob Campbell, Vance Neal, and Steve Godwin among the charter members. With the Houston Astros minor league team coming in 2019 and construction of a new downtown stadium, Park says he's looking for an even stronger club. We have 65 members now, the club president says. Membership is $150 and we will cut it off at $150. Park says too, Wednesday was a memorable evening, one of the best we have had. We have a great class of inductees. And this is Myron Pitt's column for today. The State Department of Transportation is looking to make changes at 2 dangerous intersections off Bingham Drive and is seeking the public's opinion on the proposal. From 2011 to 2016, there were 22 crashes at Bingham's intersections with Pepperbush Drive and Greenock Avenue, according to Andrew Barksdale, a spokesman for the DOT. The intersections are in the Aaron Lake area. 3 people died in 3 separate wrecks, all at Greenock, Barksdale said. Transportation officials want to close a median that allows left turns onto Bingham from the 2 roads. Drivers would have to turn right on Bingham, then make a U-turn farther up if they want to go in the other direction. A news release said the project would reduce the risk of crashes and improve traffic flow on Bingham Drive. An open house was held Tuesday, but people who missed it can still submit comments on the proposal through March 20th. Contact Sean Matuszewski, the project engineer, at 910-364-0603. The State Transportation Department's Highway Division 6 has minor road improvements set for Cumberland, Bladen, Columbus, Harnett, and Robinson counties. Work includes paved shoulders and improved intersections and will take place over the next 2 years, according to the DOT. Money comes from the Mobility Modernization Fund, the goal of which is to speed up work on smaller projects. Each of the state's 14 highway divisions are in line for $1.7 million each year for the projects the DOT identifies as high impact, low cost. This new program allowed our department to identify and fund low-cost projects that will really benefit local communities, Terry Hutchins, a State Transportation Board member for Division 6, said in the release. A good part of the money will be used to add 2 feet of paved shoulder on each side of several roads in 5 counties. In Cumberland, the roads are Beaver Dam Road between Hollow Bridge and Stedman Cedar Creek Roads, Slocum Road between McBride and Collier Chapel Roads, and West Weaves Bridge Wire Road between US 401 and the Harnett County line. In Harnett, the roads are Hodges Chapel Road between US 301 and Interstate 95, Piney Grove Rawls Road between US 401 and the Wake County line, and Old US 421 between McDougal and Willie Cameron roads. In Robinson, the road is North Carolina 71 between North Carolina 20 and NC 211. The roads will be resurfaced as well with funds from another pot of money. In the news release, Greg Burns, Division 6 engineer, said most of the roads are secondary roads with speed limits of 55 miles per hour. The added pavement will reduce the chance drivers veer off the road. And another article related to the ongoing Gen X situation. Recent tests for a potentially cancer-causing compound around a Bladen County plant show some encouraging trends, a state official said Friday. The State Department of Environmental Quality is requiring Chemours to test private wells around its facility for Gen X. The company makes the compound at the plant, which is just off North Carolina 87, near the Cape Fear River and the Cumberland County line. Gen X has been linked to several forms of cancer in animal studies, but isn't known if the effect is the same in humans. The compound is used to make non-stick cookware and other products. The chemical has been found in about 280 wells, including more than 150 that have levels of the compound above the state's provisional health goal. State officials say they intend to keep testing until the edge of the contamination is found. The most recent round of tests is checking wells within about 2.5 miles of the Chemours property, focusing on those that are north, northeast, and southwest of the plant. Michael Scott, director of the State Department of Environmental Quality's Division of Waste Management, said Friday that results from those tests are being reviewed. We are seeing some encouraging trends, he said. During the previous 3 phases of testing, about a third of the wells had levels of Gen X above the health goal. About a third had levels below the goal, with about a third showing none of the compound. The percentage of tests above the health goal appears to be going down in the latest phase of tests, Scott said. That is a piece of good news for sure. Scott made the comments during an interview that was broadcast live on the Fayetteville Observer's Facebook page. Sheila Holman, the department's Assistant Secretary for Environment, said during the broadcast that initial tests of air emissions from the plant are expected within a few days. State officials have been working with the Environmental Protection Agency and Chemours representatives on how to do the stack test. There was no clear way to do the testing, she said. The company previously provided the state with estimates on how much Gen X and related compounds have been released into the air. We have been pushing the company hard on what they can do to reduce or eliminate the air emissions, she said. Scott also said tissue samples from the fish in a nearby lake were taken Wednesday. They are being processed and will be sent to the lab this week for analysis. Results of those tests are expected back late next month. Residents who live around the plant had asked state officials to test fish. It's one more step forward in answering the questions that the communities have. Holman said the results from those tests will determine whether state officials ask Chemours to test fish in the Cape Fear River. We'll be able to say more as soon as those results come back. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency, broadcasting here from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is being carried by the UNC Chapel Hill system. We are a nonprofit agency dependent upon donations and support from the community. Please consider making those donations and sending those to the Radio Reading Service at P.O. Box 35029 in Fayetteville, 28303. And as I mentioned before, the 8th Annual Golf Tournament is coming up on Saturday, April 7th. Please encourage folks to support the event because all the proceeds will benefit the Radio Reading Service. You can call the office here for more information or with any comments or concerns, 910-672-1600. Again, your radio readers today are Stuart and Beth Walters. We are glad to be with you today. And we'll turn now to the reading of the obituaries. As soon as Engineer James makes his transition.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
My man James.
Yeah.
Okay, he keeps it straight. All right. Okay, let's go to the obituaries. We'll first start with the late death notices. Anna M. Vega, 32 of Fayetteville, Hearing Funeral Home. Robert Allen Grooms, 87 of Fayetteville, Rogers and Breese. From the Cape Fear region, Dave Garbarino, 87 of Pinehurst, Adcock Funeral Home. Anthony Johnson, 26 of Andrew, Stafford Funeral Home. Kevin Hunt, 54 of Gibson, Richard Bowles Funeral Home. Beth McLean, 94 of Rayford, Bowie Funeral Home. Sandra Bass, 66 of Irwin, Skinner and Smith. And to the obituaries. Pearl Lee Haywood, 82 of Fayetteville, died Monday, February 26th. The funeral is Sunday at Weissman Mortuary. The viewing will be at the funeral home today from 2 to 6 p.m. The burial is in Gardner's Chapel Church Cemetery, and that's Weissman Mortuary. Stephen Craig Patterson, Sr., 69 of Eastover, died on March 7th, 2018. Let's see. A visitation will be held tonight at Jernigan Warren Funeral Home from 6 to 8, and the funeral service will be held Sunday, March 11th at 2 p.m. at Salem United Methodist Church, and the burial will follow in the church cemetery, Jernigan Warren Funeral Home. William Christopher Bill Teal, 71 of Linden, passed away Thursday, March 8th. The graveside services will be Sunday, March 11th at 2 o'clock at the Lafayette Memorial Park on Ramsey Street, and James Chavis is officiating. The family will receive friends at Jernigan Warren from 12:30 until 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. That's Jernigan Warren. John Leslie Foy, 62 of Fayetteville, died Tuesday, March 6th. The funeral is Monday at Simon Temple AME Zion Church. The viewing is at the church Monday at 11 a.m. to noon. The burial is in Cumberland Memorial Gardens, and that's Covenant Funeral Home. Vicky White Sechrist, 63 of Fayetteville, died Tuesday, March 6th. The memorial is Wednesday at 11 a.m. at Jernigan Warren Chapel. The visitation is following the service at Jernigan Warren. Mary Kane Williams, 95, who lived in New Bern but formerly lived in Fayetteville, died on Wednesday, March 7th at the Brookdale Assisted Living facility in New Bern. The funeral services will be at Jernigan Warren Funeral Home here in Fayetteville Monday, March 12th at 1 p.m., followed by a graveside service at the Lafayette Memorial Park on Ramsey Street. Visitation is 1 hour prior to the service at from 12 to 1. Philip Brown, 67 of Fayetteville, died on Wednesday, March 7th. In a private gathering, his family will place his cremated remains in a beautiful place that brought him great joy. Online condolences may be made at sullivanshighland.com. John Ayala Parada, 67 of Fayetteville, died Tuesday, March 6th. The funeral is Monday at 12:30 p.m. at Rogers and Breese Funeral Home. The burial is at the Sand Hill State Veterans Cemetery, and that's Rogers and Breese. Jimmy Ronald Mercer, age 78, of Lumberton, passed away Thursday, March 8th. The family will receive friends on Saturday, March 10th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Floyd Mortuary and Crematory, and then a funeral service will be held on Sunday at 2 p.m. at Antioch Baptist Church. Melville Rose Allen, 85, of St. Paul's, died Thursday, March 8th. The funeral is Monday at 3 p.m. at the Rozier Baptist Church in Lumberton. The visitation is in McNeil Mackey Funeral Home at St. Paul's Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. The burial will be at the Great Marsh Baptist Church Cemetery. Mary McNeil Krogan died recently. A memorial service will be held Tuesday, March 13th at 11 a.m. at Pullen Memorial Baptist Church in Raleigh. Memorial gifts in honor of her can be given online. The arrangements are by Brown Lynn in Raleigh. James Ellison, 82 of Maxon, died Sunday, March 4th. The funeral is Sunday at 2:30 at the Praise and Worship Ministries in Red Springs. The viewing is at S&L Funeral Home in Maxton, Saturday from 2 to 6. The burial is at the McLeod Cemetery in Maxton, and that's S&L Funeral Home. Mary Sue Lehman Green, 79, of Whiteville, died Wednesday, March 7th. The memorial is today at 2 p.m. at McKenzie Mortuary Chapel. The visitation is there today from 1 to 1:30. Brett Lee, 57, of Elizabethtown, died Thursday, March 8th. The funeral is Sunday at 4 p.m. at the Dublin First Baptist Church. The visitation is at the Church Fellowship Hall tomorrow from 2:30 to 3:30. The burial is in Blade Memorial Gardens. And Lou Lily Gooden, 81, of Council, died Friday, March 7th. The funeral is Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Mount Horeb Presbyterian Church in Council. The visitation is Mount Horeb Presbyterian Church from Saturday from 10 to 11, and the burial is in the church cemetery, and that's Bladen Gaskins Funeral Home.
The next article is out of Florida, titled from the Associated Press, Florida Governor Signs Gun Restrictions. Florida Governor Rick Scott signed a far-reaching school safety bill Friday that places new restrictions on guns, cementing his state's break with the National Rifle Association and decades of Republican thinking on gun control in the aftermath of the Parkland High School shooting attack. Surrounded by family members of the 17 people killed in the shooting just over 3 weeks ago, the GOP governor said the bill balances our individual rights with the need for public safety. It's an example to the entire country that government can and has moved fast, said Scott, whose state has been ruled for 20 years by gun-friendly Republican lawmakers. Tony Montalto, whose daughter Jenna was killed in the shooting, read a statement from the victims' families. When it comes to preventing future acts of horrific school violence, this is the beginning of the journey. We have paid a terrible price for this progress. The bill fell short of achieving the ban on assault-style type weapons sought by survivors. The gunman who opened fire at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School used such a weapon, an AR-15 rifle. Nevertheless, the bill raises the minimum age to buy rifles from 18 to 21, extends a 3-day waiting period for handgun purchases to include long guns, and ban bump stocks, which allows guns to mimic fully automatic fire. It also creates so-called Guardian program enabling some teachers and other employees to carry, other school employees to carry guns. The NRA insisted that the measure punishes law-abiding gun owners for the criminal acts of a deranged individual. The group promptly filed a lawsuit to block the provision that raises the age to buy guns, arguing that it violates the Second Amendment. The Parkland gunman gave repeated warning signs that were ignored by federal and state officials. If we want to prevent further future atrocities, we must look for solutions that keeps guns out of the hands of those who are a danger to themselves or others, while protecting the rights of law-abiding Americans. Chris W. Cox, Executive Director of the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action, said in a statement, "The signing marked a major victory for the teens who lived through the attack and swiftly became the public faces of a renewed gun control movement. Just days after the shooting, they began holding rallies, lobbying lawmakers, and harnessing the power of social media in support of reform. The governor told the students, 'You helped change our state. You made a difference. You should be proud.' Scott, who said he is an NRA member and will continue to be one, said he is still not persuaded about the Guardian program that will let districts authorize staff members to carry handguns if they complete law enforcement training. It is not mandatory. If counties don't want to do this, they can simply say no, he said. Andrew Pollock, whose daughter Meadow died, called the new law a start for us. His teenage son Hunter added, "Let's get the rest of the country to follow our lead and let's make schools safe. Let's harden the schools and make sure this never happens again." And the next article is out of Raleigh by Jonathan Drew of the Associated Press. The title is "Police Beating Shows Technology Shortcomings." A white police officer shown on video beating a black pedestrian has been charged with felony assault in a case that sparked outrage over use of excessive force. The case against former Asheville police officer Christopher Hickman stems from an August 2017 encounter, but became public only last week after a leaked body camera video showed Hickman subduing and punching the pedestrian who was accused of jaywalking. The violent encounter happened shortly after Asheville implemented rules against excessive force, demonstrating how even a well-meaning policy can be limited by the officers in carrying it out. The delay in making the footage public also shows that body camera technology being adopted across the country can't always guarantee the level of transparency many have hoped for. We need to be very cognizant of how difficult police supervision actually is. It's difficult enough that we can't just throw a piece of technology at it and expect to substantially change police supervision, said Seth Stoughton, who teaches law at the University of South Carolina. Hickman, 31, was arrested late Thursday on a felony charge of assault by strangulation, as well as misdemeanor counts of assault and communicating threats, according to the prosecutor. A phone listing for Hickman, who resigned in January, had a full inbox that wouldn't take messages. The August 25th encounter came 3 months after the city implemented the use of force policy that included training on de-escalating tense situations. The policy was drafted in the aftermath of a white officer killing an armed black man after a high-speed chase. Despite the policy, Hickman was shown on the video published last week by the Citizen's Time subduing Johnny Jermaine Rush, then punching and shocking him with a stun gun. Rush was stopped on a dark street because officers accused him of crossing outside a crosswalk near a minor league ballpark and cluster of breweries popular with tourists. An arrest warrant for Hickman said Rush, 33, suffered head abrasions and swellings and that he lost consciousness when Hickman pressed his arm to his throat. James Lee, a black minister and member of the Racial Justice Coalition, said the episode erodes trust in a community that hoped the use of force policy would bring change. What this has done is pause the level of trust, Lee said. Still, Lee said Hickman is still being held accountable and he believes Police Chief Tammy Hooper should stay in her job. Hopefully she will continue to learn from this, he said. On Wednesday, Hooper was interrupted by an angry audience as she spoke about the case at a Citizens Police Advisory Board meeting. Hooper said she put Hickman on administrative duty immediately after the altercation and started an administrative review. But people attending the meeting demanded to know why a criminal investigation wasn't sought for months. At Wednesday's meeting, activist Dolores Venable questioned the city's image as welcoming, progressive, and a tourist haven. Where's the progress when we tell tourists to come here, she asked. But black tourists got to face getting beat down on Biltmore Avenue because you're jaywalking?
This next column comes from Yvonne Gale, who often writes columns in the newspaper. The Gale family is mourning. It finally happened. Our beloved Casper, the most wonderful puppy in the entire world, died. He was 15 years old. Mom took him to the vet to be euthanized. Dad, who served 2 tours in Vietnam and was a police officer for 26 years, could not do it. Therefore, my precious mom took our puppy for his last vet visit. She brought our puppy home, and someone from the Good Shepherd Pet Crematory came to pick him up. Casper was wrapped up in his blue blanket with one of his favorite teddy bears. Dad is stoic, but Mom cried for hours. It is Mom who has had to comfort and nurture our grieving family. She is a strong lady. Miss Kitty and I have tried to provide much love and comfort to Mom and Dad. Since February 2nd, there have been numerous no mores in the Gale household. No more kissing Casper's head 10 or 12 times and waiting for him to lick your face. No more sneaking food to him from the dinner table. No more food and treats to come in the blue Chewy box. No more greenies, his favorite treat. No more walks around Westchester Circle as he sniffed his favorite places and greeted his dog friends, CV, Rocky, Emma, Henry, Buddy, and Abby. No more visits to the Andersons, our neighbors, for special treats of cheese. No more feeling that sweet body snuggled under the cover between Mom and Dad. No more seeing Casper asleep on his pet blanket next to Mom and Dad's blanket. No more grooming appointments at PetSmart. No more tug games with Casper as he retrieved his toys from his dog bucket that had dog toys printed on it. No more of Mom getting out of her daddy's chair because Casper kept looking at her, telling her he wanted to go to sleep in that specific chair. No more getting Mara Lee, the Panimal pet sitter, to take Casper for a long walk if Mom and Dad were going to be gone for more than 4 hours at a time. No more Mom singing to her puppy when she was happy. I love my Casper, I love my Casper. No more watching Dad prepare his food in the morning and at night. No more trying to avoid Dad giving him medicine when he didn't want it. Forever Casper's family, Miss Kitty, Mom, Dad, and me, Lilypad, we will love him and never forget him. And if any of you, like us, have had to put animals down, you know that is a very, very difficult thing to have to do. This next article is by Bill Kirby. Cumberland County Commissioner Charles Evans, Mary Owens, Robert McCrae, Roy Mayhew, and Carlin Ashford will be among honorees at the Fayetteville Cumberland County Human Relations Commission's 50th Anniversary Recognition Awards reception, which is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Thursday at the Embassy Suites. Evans will receive the Esther Department Award. Owens, who is with the Cumberland County Ministerial Council, the Religious Leader Award, and McCrae, the Elmer Floyd Lifetime Achievement Award. Mayhew of Luther Nick Gerald's Middle School, the Inez Easley Educator Award, and Ashford of Fayetteville State University, the Alfonso McCoy Youth Award. Others to be honored are Rosetta Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, the Carlos and Terry Union Zukowski Humanitarian Award, Jernigan Warren Funeral Home, the Industry Business Award, and Latinos United for Progress, the Ronald McElrath Commission Organization Award. Making fairness, equality, and unity a way of life is this year's theme. The awards recognize efforts to improve race and human relations. Proceeds support the Commission's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Endowment Fund, which is maintained by the Cumberland Community Foundation. Tickets are $25. You may not know this, but the American Red Cross says that every U.S. president has designated March as American Red Cross Month since 1943. The organization encourages eligible donors to join in its life-saving mission by giving blood. Donors of all blood types, especially type O, are needed. Upcoming blood donation opportunities in the Cape Fear region are on March 16th at Lakewood High School in Salemburg, on March 20th at Plainview Community Center in Dunn, on March 21st at Campbell University in Buies Creek, on March 22nd at Southeastern Community College in Whiteville, and also on March 22nd at Southeastern Health in Lumberton. On March 23rd at Scotland High School in Laurinburg. For more information, call 1-800-733-2767. The 83rd Annual High Falls Old Timer Fiddlers Convention is 6 p.m. today at Northmore High School in Robbins. Admission is $7. For those wishing to participate, registration will begin at 4:30. The competition includes bands, fiddle, banjo, guitar, mandolin, singing, dancing, bass fiddle, dobro, piano, and most promising young talent. The convention is sponsored by High Falls Elementary School with proceeds benefiting the Moore County schools. You can get more information by calling 910-464-3600. William S. Caudill, founder and director of the Scottish Heritage Center at St. Andrews University, will be guest speaker at 2 p.m. Sunday at the Southern Pines Civic Club at the corner of East Pennsylvania Avenue and Ash Street. The lecture, sponsored by the Moore County Historical Association, is free. For more information, call 910-692-2051. Lane Garner, who we wrote about last week after he took over as superintendent of Lumberton River State Park in Robinson County, is a native of Bladen County and Duplin County. Garner succeeds Neil Lee, who retired after 23 years with the Park Service. And we'll take a look at an article from the sports page, which may interest many of you East Carolina fans out there. Interesting development at East Carolina this week. The university has reached an agreement to part ways with embattled athletics director Jeff Comfer on May 1st, after the university's board of trustees approved an agreement to buy out his contract Friday. The school, which signed Comfort to a 5-year extension just this past June, could compensate him up to $1,200,000 in payments over the next 5 years. The total equates to 50% of the base salary and 50% of his supplemental pay Comfort would have received if his employment had continued through the terms of the extension. The buyout concludes a tumultuous past year on the job for Comfort, who has been blamed by some in the fan base for the school's slumping football program. During at least 2 football games, as the Pirates struggled to a 3-9 finish, a banner paid for by an ECU alum was flown over Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium that said "Fire Comfort." I think he was most embattled because of his early pulling of the trigger to fire Rutherford McNeil. The search for Comfort's replacement will begin immediately, and the interim leader will be appointed soon, according to the Chancellor, Cecil Staten. "I want to thank Jeff Comfort for his service to ECU and Pirate Nation over the past 5 years," the Chancellor said. "Jeff has worked hard and has accomplished much in his time here, and our athletic department and student athletes are far better off as a result of Jeff's efforts." The agreement requires Comfort to make reasonable efforts to obtain a new position in an athletics-related position to reduce ECU's obligation. The university's payments would be reduced on a dollar-for-dollar basis after he earns $192,000 in a new position. Several factors can cause the final payment to Comfort to rise or decrease. Payments can be stopped at any time by ECU if it discovers Comfort violated law or policy or committed any level 1 or 2 NCAA violations. The school said it isn't aware of any such violations. Comfort came to ECU in April 2013 to replace Jerry Holland after a successful 5-year stint at Northern Illinois. During his tenure, the Pirates made the transition to the American Athletic Conference, improved the school's shoe and apparel contract by forging a new 10-year deal with Adidas, developed a women's lacrosse program, and broke ground for a $60 million renovation at the football stadium. ECU athletes also produced the highest grade point average in history under Comfort. But in December 2015, Comfort made what appeared to be a bold move at the time by firing popular and successful head football coach Rutherford McNeil. The Pirates had finished 5-7 during the 15 season, but had gone 42-34 overall and 30-18 in conference games between Conference USA and the AAC. Comfort hired Duke offensive coordinator Scotty Montgomery as McNeil's replacement, but after 2 seasons, Montgomery has a 6-18 overall record. The decision to part ways with Comfort comes at a pivotal time for ECU's basketball program. Head coach Jeff Lemo stepped down after a 2-4 start this season, and assistant Michael Perry led the team the rest of the way. But now the search for a new basketball coach will likely be put on hold until a new athletic director can be hired. The names of several potential candidates were already starting to circulate Friday. Former ECU athletic director Dave Hart has recently retired from the same position at Tennessee after a previous stint at Florida State. Hart worked at East Carolina from '87 to '95, during which the Pirates enjoyed some of their best years in football under coaches Bill Lewis and Steve Logan. Hart has always been remembered fondly by ECU fans, and it is believed he would be interested in the athletic director job again in Greenville for a 2 or 3 year time period to help write the football program. Jeff Barber, a 1981 ECU graduate who also worked 4 years in the school's athletic program, is also available, resigning in November 2016 as athletic director at Liberty University. He spent 11 years there. Jimmy Bass is the athletic director at UNC Wilmington, but the Dunn native previously served as associate athletic director for external operations at ECU. Bass is personable and has made some impressive hires for the Seahawks, including bringing Kevin Keats to Wilmington as the men's basketball coach before he was hired away by NC State. Clemson's Deputy Director of Athletics, Graham Neff, is an up-and-coming college athletic administrator who could also be in the mix. Neff is a Georgia Tech graduate who served as manager of the men's basketball team. He has an MBA in finance from Tech before getting into athletic administration. Neff served as an associate athletic director for Middle Tennessee State before joining the staff at Clemson.
The next article is the World Editorial Roundup. Restoring Land is about restoring dignity. The Mail and Guardian, South Africa, disputes international concerns over land restitution. When we talk about land in South Africa, we talk about earth firm enough to allow us to stand tall. When we talk about land, we talk about earth gentle enough to raise children who will know what it is to belong. When we talk about land, we talk about earth wide enough to admit the full complexity of who we are. When we talk about land, we talk principally about the dignity of those who live with an ongoing deprivation that can only be remedied by a fastidious process of redistribution. When we talk about land, we are talking too about recognizing that black South Africans have had their humanity systematically denied by a legislative system of dispossession. The Natives Land Act of 1913 and the Native Administration Act of 1927 are two examples of the way the land was used to dispossess black people. As Tembeka Nkobi writes in this week's Mail and Guardian, it is these laws that govern the process over which white governments undermined the security of tenure of black people living in native reserves or on farms taken over by whites. He says when the Native Administration Act was passed, it recognized the British Governor General as the supreme chief of all natives, with the power to order the expulsion of any native from any part of the country. This was just not about the law being used to govern the ownership of land as a physical thing. It was the law that was used to institutionalize the dehumanization of black people. It was used to assert a sense of control over the very being of black people. And that is why the Bill of Rights, as the cornerstone of our democracy, the contract we enter into with each other, enshrines the rights of all people in our country and affirms the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. Dignity is not some manufactured sense of entitlement. Affirming a person's dignity is to affirm their humanity. So when Parliament voted in favor of beginning a process that will look into current legal infrastructure surrounding the restitution of land, it was an important moment in the history of South Africa. Especially important because for the past 23 years, The government has failed to use the existing legal framework to push through an active process of land restitution. What is at stake is not the ego of politicians and their careers, which are so dependent on playing on the emotions of the public. What is at stake is the recognition that the time to relegate this debate to idle chit-chat is long gone, and the likes of the economic freedom fighters Julius Malema know this. You can mistrust the motives of politicians like him and the ANC du jour, but you cannot deny that a concerted push for the restitution of land is well overdue. Elsewhere in the M&G today, we conveyed the results of the government's most recent land audit, which found that an overwhelming majority of privately owned land in South Africa is in the hands of white people. It is unconscionable to maintain this system of ownership.
And before I forget, two of our regular listeners have birthdays today, Howard Winston and Robine McLaurin. Yeah, happy birthday to you. And Sarah Wilcox has a birthday tomorrow, so we wanted to make sure we mentioned those. We are at the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency broadcasting here from the campus of Fayetteville State University. Our signal is being carried on the UNC Chapel Hill system. We are a nonprofit agency relying on public support. Please consider sending those donations to the Radio Reading Service at P.O. Box 35029, 28303. And in line with that, please do remember the golf tournament that's coming up the first Saturday in April, April 7th. It's going to be at Gates 4. Please encourage folks to support that event. All proceeds will benefit the Radio Reading Service. And your readers this morning, of course, are Stuart and Beth Walters. We'll be glad to be with you for this last half hour. Let's turn our attention to a few articles from the business page. Goldman Sachs Chief Executive Officer Lloyd Blankfein has started plans to retire and could do so as soon as the end of this year, according to the Wall Street Journal. However, Blankfein distanced himself from the Journal's story, joking on Twitter, "I feel like Huck Finn listening to his own eulogy." Blankfein is 63, has run Goldman since 2006, and ran the New York firm through the housing market bubble and the subsequent financial crisis. The firm also became a target of intense populist anger during the Great Recession. It emerged from the crisis transformed, focusing less on risky trading, and is now exploring new businesses like consumer loans. Facebook is getting deeper into the professional sports streaming game, partnering with Major League Baseball to air 25 weekday afternoon games in an exclusive deal. The games will be available to Facebook users in the U.S. on Facebook Watch, the company's video feature announced last August via the MLB Live show page. Facebook said Friday that recorded broadcasts also will be available globally, excluding select international markets. From Detroit, just days after ride-hailing service Uber announced it was testing tractor-trailers that drive themselves, Google's autonomous vehicle operation announced similar testing in Georgia. Waymo says that starting next week it will run self-driving rigs in the Atlanta area with human backup drivers. They'll travel freeways and local roads to deliver server racks and other cargo destined for Google's data center. Second article I've seen about autonomous tractor trailers this week. That must be a growing thing. Michael Futch's column for today on the business page. The restaurant's servers and managers will soon be wearing baseball attire. An alcoholic drink called the Grand Slam is available, and the burgers are shaped like home plate. They're shaped especially for us, Sierra Burke said of the hamburger patties, and they are awesome. With the still under construction downtown baseball stadium in mind, the owners of the new Third Base restaurant and bar have cooked up a baseball theme. Burke is one of the managers of the independent enterprise, which opened March 1st in the former Wing Company downtown location at Hay and Maxwell Streets. Legends Restaurant and Sports Bar and Beef O'Brady's previously operated from the site. "We're going to be very baseball-oriented," said the 23-year-old Burke, a 2012 graduate of Massey Hill Classical School. We're in the process of getting uniforms for the servers. The managers are going to have white baseball jerseys. The wing company set up shop at the location around August. Burke, who worked for that outfit for about a year, said third base is not affiliated with the wing company. Co-owner Taylor Kiefer, who was employed by the wing company for 6 years, said the new ownership wanted to step away from that chain. We're more of a baseball-themed restaurant, Burke said. We see it as a better option. More of a baseball option considering the baseball stadium down here. The establishment serves lunch, dinner, drinks, and coffee. Burke said third base serves wings and other food selections, including Reubens and club sandwiches. Third base has seating for 110 downstairs and another 22 upstairs. Diners can also opt for fresh air on the front patio. It's actually picking up pretty good, Burke said of the foot traffic. Downtown business is a little different. And Michael writes about the former Jason's Deli location. After a decade on site, Jason's Deli moved out of its Cross Creek Mall location and opened in Freedom Town Center February 12th. That has left a gaping tenant space for CDL and Associates Properties, the mall's owners and operators. We don't have anything confirmed at this time. They are marketing the space, Cross Creek Mall spokesman Lee Burnett said. Burnett said they would love to have another restaurant, but ownership is open to another type of retail business. If another type of use uses that space, she added, we would offer that. She described any potential talks with prospective tenants as still in the preliminary stage. The deli's departure, Burnett said, was a setback for Cross Creek. Sure it hurts, she said. Anytime you lose a really good operation like that, it's not what you want to see happening. Brides Etc. on Broad Street in Southern Pines has announced that it will be closing after 42 years in business. The retailer has long been a shopping destination for all bridal parties, proms, military balls, and social events. If you have anything formal to go to, co-owner Sonia Lawrence said Friday, we're the spot. A closing sale got underway February 22nd and is scheduled to run through mid-May. All in-stock formal wear, wedding dresses, jewelry, shoes, and accessories are being featured at sale prices according to a news release. May 15th is the tentative target date for the final day of business. Lawrence and her husband Phil, who also owns the business, plan to spend more time with family and friends after the store has been liquidated. We've enjoyed everything, the 49-year-old Sonia Lawrence said. We've been in business 42 years and I've been here for 28 of those. We still love what we do. Brides Etc. was established in 1975 in Sanford. 9 years later, a second showroom was added in Southern Pines. In 1991, the two stores consolidated into the existing Southern Pines shop on Broad Street. We have tons of stuff, she said. In the meantime, it's business as usual. The store is still accepting special orders. We're phasing out after the prom season, Lawrence said, toward the end of May when we finish. And this article is about the jobs report that came out yesterday, which resulted in a huge surge in the stock market. U.S. employers went on a hiring binge in February, adding 313,000 jobs amid rising business confidence lifted by the Trump administration's tax cuts and a resilient global economy. The surprisingly robust hiring reported by the Labor Department on Friday was the strongest in 1.5 years. It was accompanied by the biggest surge in 15 years in the number of people either working or looking for work. That kept the nation's unemployment rate unchanged for a fifth straight month at 4.1%. At the same time, average wage growth slowed to 2.6% in February from a year earlier. That was down from January's revised pace of 2.8%, which has spooked investors because it raised fears of inflation. The hiring boom caught many economists off guard because they expected a smaller, though still healthy increase. Job gains typically slow as the unemployment rate falls because companies run out of workers to hire. The economy has expanded for 104 straight months or nearly 9 years, the second largest expansion on record, and hiring often declines as recessions fade further into the past. Yet job growth has accelerated in recent months. Companies have added an average of 242,000 jobs a month over the past 3 months, above 2017's pace of 182,000. The February employment report was unambiguously strong, confirming that the U.S. labor market is on fire, said Michelle Girard, chief U.S. economist at NatWest Markets. The pace of job growth is gaining momentum, a very impressive development at this stage of the economic cycle.
This is a report in the Fayetteville Observer of a celebration event last night. The Fayetteville Observer celebrated its 40 under 40 class of 2018 during a gala Friday evening at the Cape Fear Botanical Garden. In its 8th year, the 40 under 40 awards honor the region's best and brightest young professionals for their dedication to their communities. The Observer also awarded its inaugural Rising Star Award, which goes to someone under 21. Inside today's Observer, you will find a 32-page publication with profiles of all our honorees. Go to FayettevilleObserver.com to see more photos from Friday's gala, along with galleries from our previous classes of 40 under 40 going back to 2011. We'll have more photos from Friday inside Sunday's Observer. The next article is Dear Abby's. First question. Dear Abby, my 14-year-old daughter caught her father, my husband, emailing and texting other women. He has been doing it for months. He says he went on dating sites because he was unhappy in our marriage and needed attention and to feel desirable. He claims he only emailed and texted these women discussing relationship troubles, no sex talk. I'm furious he was so careless that our daughters found the emails. In one, he stated his sex drive was very high and asked how hers was, and I'm devastated that he would do this to our family. He said he didn't think it was cheating because it was only online. Please advise. Furious in the South. Dear Furious, your husband isn't being honest. At the very least, there was, quote-unquote, sex talk as soon as he used that 3-letter word in his emails text to the women on the dating sites. You two are overdue for a visit to a marriage and family therapist to determine if the damage your husband has done to his relationship with you and his daughter can be repaired. Please do not wait to schedule an appointment. And would be to respond with a firm and final no. Dear Abby, I'm a 9-year-old girl and my mom doesn't spend a lot of quality time with me. What should I tell her to get her to spend time with me? Needs time in Florida. Dear Needs Time. What a sad letter. Not knowing why your mother isn't giving you quality time, I can only suggest that you tell her you need more of her and hope she hears how important your message is. And today's question for the Billy Graham column. The question is, all my children have messed up lives. Multiple divorces, illegitimate children, alcohol, drugs, you name it. I can't blame anyone but myself because I was a lousy mother. 2 years ago, however, I found Jesus and my life has turned around. Will God ever forgive me for those lost years? I don't see how He can. Answer. One of the Bible's greatest truths is that when we come to Christ and trust Him alone for our salvation, God forgives us of every sin we have ever committed, completely and totally. It's as if every sin you committed were listed on a chalkboard and Jesus stepped up and erased them all. Don't therefore be bound by the past or filled any longer with doubt or guilt. When Jesus Christ, the sinless Son of God, died on the cross, all our sins were transferred to Him, and He took upon Himself the judgment and hell that you and I deserve. Why not pause right now and thank Him for loving you and forgiving you totally and completely? The Bible says in Ephesians 1:7, "In Him we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of sins." Thank God, too, for changing your life. And if God can do it for you, He can also do it for your children. You don't indicate in your letter if you have any meaningful contact with them, but even if you don't, pray for them and ask God to give you an opportunity to let them know you regret the past.
Let's look at a couple of items from the sports pages in the few minutes that we have left. Lots of basketball. March Madness is in tow. So tonight's ACC championship game is set between North Carolina and Virginia because UNC did beat Duke last night in the semifinals of the tournament. Sammy Batten's at the tournament, and he writes, "There were face-to-face stare-downs, Kay giving officials the stink eye, and even some extracurricular activities from Grayson Allen. The only thing missing was old Roy ripping off his jacket. Yes, it was played in New York City in the Barclays Center, but this was truly another down and dirty dogfight to the finish, the back-road rivalry game between Duke and North Carolina that nobody wanted to lose." Round 3 this year in college basketball's best rivalry went to the Tar Heels, who held off a furious rally by the Blue Devils to pull out a 74-69 triumph in the semifinal round of the 65th Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament. The victory sends number 6 seed UNC into today's championship game against regular season champ Virginia, who won against Clemson in Friday's other semifinal. "Those last 5 minutes were unbelievable," North Carolina coach Roy Williams said. "We were making shots, and all of a sudden at the 5-minute mark we make 5 turnovers and miss a bunch of shots. But we also got a lot of rebounds and made free throws." The Tar Heels, who beat Duke at home in February before losing on the road in the regular season finale, bolted out of the gate Friday much to the pleasure of the partisan crowd at the Barclays Center. With the Blue Devils committing 5 turnovers and making just one of their first 8 field goal attempts, North Carolina quickly moved out to a 16-3 lead. Duke fought back and was trailing just 32-27 with 52 seconds left in the first half when Allen caused a big stir by throwing his hip out as UNC's Garrison Brooks was running up the floor. Brooks went flying and officials headed to the sideline to review a replay of the incidents. While the review was underway, various angles of the play were shown on the video board, eliciting a chorus of boos from the crowd. It was the largest for a college game ever at the Barclays Center. The boos grew louder when Allen was assessed a flagrant foul, giving UNC 2 free throws and the ball. The Tar Heels took advantage and carried 36-31 lead into halftime. But Allen and UNC guard Joel Berry were seen smiling and laughing about the situation when the teams returned to the court. "It was nothing. We're cool," Berry said later. Things weren't cool, however, later in the second half when Berry and Duke guard Gary Trent became face-to-face after a loose ball tied up in the midst of the Blue Devils rally. Of course, that rally didn't start until UNC had gone up by 16 points with 5:33 to play. The Tar Heels went nearly 5 minutes without a field goal, allowing the Blue Devils to go on a 13-0 run that got them within 72-69 with 50 seconds left. Trent's 3-point basket capped that run, and after UNC's Theo Pinson turned the ball over on the sideline, Duke had a chance to tie the game with less than 15 seconds remaining. Allen attempted to duck under a Tar Heel defender before firing up a 3-point shot that missed. Pinson grabbed the rebound for UNC and was fouled. His 2 free throws with 3 seconds left sealed the win and sent the Heels into the finals, seeking their 19th tournament title. "I just made a bad turnover, so I needed to make up for it," Pinson said. "I went to the line knowing we needed to have those points. And when he made them, Pinson said we'll get another thrilling Duke-North Carolina rivalry game. The only thing missing in this one was old Roy staying in his jacket." And this is another article related to ongoing events within college athletics. A North Carolina State spokesman says the school has received a grand jury subpoena from a New York court seeking records. Athletics spokesman Fred Demarest confirmed to the Associated Press that the school's Office of General Counsel received the subpoena from the Southern District of New York on January 17th. Demarest added that the school's general counsel was told the subpoena was confidential and did not inform the Wolfpack's coaching staff. It is unclear what records the court is seeking, and Demarest declined to elaborate on details of the subpoena, which was first reported Friday by the Washington Post. It's the same court handling charges that were filed in September in the ongoing federal investigation of corruption in college basketball. A recent Yahoo Sports report revealed bank records and other expense reports that listed impermissible payments from agents to at least 24 players or their relatives, including loans of thousands of dollars to former Wolfpack guard Dennis Smith. Smith, a Fayetteville native, is currently in his rookie year with the Dallas Mavericks. First-year NC State coach Kevin Keats, who did not coach or recruit Smith, had said on February 19th that he had no reason to believe at all that we have anything to do with the FBI investigation, adding, "We don't have red flags or any concerns at all. We're fine on our end." Demarest told the AP Friday night that Keats was unaware of the subpoena when the coach was asked about the case on the weekly Atlantic Coast Conference coaches teleconference. NC State's general counsel was informed by the Southern District Court of New York that the subpoena was confidential and did not inform basketball staff about the request. Coach Keats was not contacted about and did not know the subpoena when he addressed the issue in February. The case is tied to hundreds of thousands of dollars in alleged bribes and kickbacks designed to influence recruits on choosing a school or an agent. Federal prosecutors announced in September that they had charged 10 men, including assistant coaches at Arizona, Auburn, USC, and Oklahoma State, along with the top Adidas executive in the fraud and bribery scandal. Prosecutors have since withdrawn the criminal complaint against one defendant. The rest are all out on bond, and all 4 charged assistant coaches have been fired. And an interesting article from the golf world. Corey Connors knew Tiger Woods had finished his second round at Innisbrook because he couldn't see him. He was only about 50 yards from the 9th green, and there were too many fans covering every inch of grass packed in a dozen deep because of Woods. Woods brought the Valspar Championship to life Friday with his best round of a comeback that is building momentum toward the Masters. Connors was happy to play a quiet round in the afternoon and wind up with the lead. The Canadian rookie ran off 3 birdies before a careless error set him back, and he finished with a 2-under 69 for a 2-shot lead going into the weekend. Right on his heels was Woods, who kept a clean card until his final hole and shot 68. Connors was on the putting green with Woods and his entourage, walked along the edge of the green in front of another group waiting to tee off on number 1 and toward the scoring area. "I definitely saw that," Connors said. "I've seen that the last few days as well. Pretty cool. Hopefully I can be in a position where I get some followers Sunday." Until that moment, the closest Connors ever got to Woods was at the Masters 3 years ago when he watched him on the range. Connors played at Augusta National that year as the U.S. amateur runner-up. Being close to him on the leaderboard is an entirely different dynamic. Connors was at 600-136 and will play in the final group with Paul Casey, who had a 68. Woods and Brant Snedeker will be in the group in front of them with thousands of fans lining the fairways and surrounding the greens. I don't think this will be leading, but at least I'm there with a chance going into the weekend, Woods said when he finished. "Today was a good day." Woods has been slowed by mistakes, some leading to big numbers. The second round at Innisbrook was all about control of his shots that rarely put him out of position off the tee, and especially on the green where he could attack putts from below the hole. He took the lead with a drive that was heading left, struck a cart path, and carried him back into the fairway on his 14th hole, the par 5 fifth. That set up a long iron into the front right bunker and a delicate shot from the sand to about 5 feet for his fourth birdie of the round. He saved par with a 12-foot putt on number 7 and was heading toward a bogey-free round that threw his wedge on the par 5 ninth, rode the shifting wind to the right and into the gallery, his ball on a woman's bag. After getting a drop, his chip came out too strong and hit the flag, leaving it only 6 feet away. He missed the putt and didn't seem at all bothered. Just over 5 months ago, Woods still didn't have clearance to begin hitting full shots, much less to play without restrictions. In his 4th PGA Tour event in 7 weeks, he looks like a contender. "I've come a long way in that span of time," Woods said. The energy in the gallery was enormous, especially for this sleepy tournament, and toward the end of the round, the fans were looking for any reason to cheer. The roars are a little louder, and there's certainly an energy about the gallery that you don't have anywhere else, Jordan Spaeth said. Spaeth missed the cut for the second time this year. He is still trying to rediscover his putting touch, and his iron game left him in an opening round of 76. He didn't fare much better on Friday with 2 birdies, 2 bogeys, a 71, and a phone call to get back to Dallas sooner than he wanted. A few other little items of interest here in the couple of minutes that we have left. Netflix has reported shares surged to an all-time high following the news that Barack Obama, former president, and Netflix reportedly are negotiating a deal for the former president and his wife, Michelle, to produce shows exclusively for the streaming service. The proposed deal was reported Friday by the New York Times, which cited people familiar with the discussions who were not identified. Obama senior advisor Eric Schultz, in a statement provided to the Associated Press, said the Obamas believe in the power of storytelling to inspire. Schultz said the couple continues to explore new ways to help others share their stories. The New York Times reported that Obama doesn't intend to use his Netflix shows to respond directly to President Donald Trump or conservative critics. Also from New York, Lisa Bonet has broken her silence about her former TV father, Bill Cosby, saying she isn't surprised he's facing sexual misconduct allegations and claiming he gave off a sinister energy. Bonet says in an interview with Porter magazine that she wasn't aware of any inappropriate behavior by Cosby on The Cosby Show and A Different World, though she sensed darkness. There was just energy, and that type of sinister, shadowy energy cannot be concealed. Cosby faces a retrial on charges he drugged and molested a woman in 2004. Prosecutors described him as a serial predator. And Kristen Wiig will play a villain in the next Wonder Woman film. Director Patty Jenkins announced on Twitter Friday that Wiig will star as Wonder Woman rival Cheetah in a superhero sequel. Jenkins said in her post that she can't wait to finally work with one of my favorites and is very excited about what they have planned. Star Gal Gadot welcomed Wiig to the cast in a follow-up post and added, "This is going to be wonderful." The title has been announced for the film, which is scheduled to hit the theaters in December next year. Well, we've come to the end of our time together here today. This concludes the reading of the Fayetteville Observer. Your radio readers have been Stuart and Beth Walters. We invite you to stay tuned for a rebroadcast of the following news programs. At 12 p.m., the grocery advertisements. At 1 p.m., the Paraglide. At 2 p.m., the Raleigh Network. At 3 p.m., the Hopeville Sandspur and the Rayford News Journal. At 5 p.m., the Rayford News Journal, Harnett County News, and the Robisonian. Additionally, you can hear rebroadcast of this reading tonight at 9. We will now join the Raleigh Network for additional news of interest. Thank you for joining us today. God bless each of you, and y'all have a wonderful day.
Well, we've run out of time for today's episode of Music Review. And as we leave you, remember these words. Kindness is a language.
Recliners come in Monday afternoon.
Okay, great.
That's why I went out.
Ran out of stuff to read. I read everything I could think of to read.
Well, there was some of them I just put away. There was some weird.
Oh yeah, I can't.
There's just some weird articles. I can't do it.
Like that one about Stormy Daniels and
in the DRRS website.
And about those crime reports and all that stuff.
I'd rather pull stuff from the business page than sports. Too much darkness. Recliner coming Monday. Good to be there for Bible study.
Coming up this afternoon on the Triangle Radio.
Okay, I will. Okay, I will. Okay, y'all. Thank you. All right.
At 3 o'clock potpourri at 3:30 p.m. out in the garden.
We gotta get this computer because we gotta get the moving. Oh,
Special edition.
sorry.
And at 5 o'clock, our audio description program.